Hi guys, and welcome to this edition of the Your Progress is Our Passion podcast. I've got a very special guest on the couch with me today, Mr. Daniel Wheeler. Me and Dan go way back. When I first got my qualification, I thought I wanted to do something that set me apart from the rest of the PTs that were out there. I knew that I was fresh and wet behind the ears and stuff, so the first thing I did was I booked in a session with Dan where I came down this way, spent a day with him, trained with him, learned the horrible hack squat thing that I still give to all my clients these days, and just talked about business and progress and how to do things. Dan later became my coach for a photo shoot, and then the only time I've ever had abs. and after that was my business mentor for about a year after that as well. So he's played a huge role in the development of CoFit and even how I run the mindset coaching business and everything. So as a result, I'm just really glad to finally be on camera with him. So,
right, what an introduction.
I know, yeah.
That's amazing.
I didn't
even pay you for that.
Well, you can do, yeah. So I'm going to basically hand over to Dan. One of the things I want to talk about with Dan is he's been in the industry quite a while now and has seen a lot of things change, and that's what I want to basically talk about. So, Dan?
Mate, thanks so much for the introduction. That's amazing.
Tell us a little bit about how you got into the industry. It's a very similar story to mine, which is what attracted me to it in the first place.
Mate, very similar. Both ex-fatties. I suppose 2010 kind of hit this rock bottom moment. I was morbidly obese, 22.6 stone, realised I had to change. I think most people have probably heard this boring story. I know you have a million times. So, long story short, I lost 8 stone. I went for a front cover shoot for Men's Fitness, which was kind of like my dream at the time. That was why I wanted to lose the weight, was to become a front cover fitness model, believe it or not, which is now the furthest apart from where I could possibly try and be now. But at the time, that was my goal. Achieved it a couple of months later, which was incredible, but a bit of a bittersweet scenario. I don't think I mentioned this to you actually, but when I had the shot done, they then were putting the photos, editing the photos in front of me in the studio, and they were making my chest a little bit bigger, my arms a little bit bigger, bringing my abs a little bit more, giving a bit of definition. And bear in mind, I dieted for 2 years for this moment, right? And there's this dream and this at the time, this kind of euphoric, fantastic point and a lovely little tick off my list. And but it still wasn't good enough for the front cover. They still had to edit it. They still had to make it perfect, and that was it was a little bit of a bittersweet. And I suppose that moment was the first eye opener to how fickle and false this industry is. Mm-hmm. Well, that part of the industry, should I say, which is the glamour magazine side of that industry, the fitness model side. And then after that, during that process, became a personal trainer, and started doing just some small PTs with. I used to work at a company called Toshiba at the time, and then developed from there. I realised I loved helping people so much, and I hated sitting on a computer emailing all day. Something had to change, and thankfully there was this amazing opportunity at Toshiba where my department was being moved to Germany, and I was going to get a promotion. I was going to go from European Online Marketing Manager to European Online Marketing Director. Okay. It was all kind of, was the offer, but I had to move to Germany. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm not doing that. And they said, look, there's this option, or you can take voluntary redundancy. You can walk away with 30 grand. And I was like, I'll go for 30 grand, I'll show you. And that's when my business was starting. Well, it was very much part-time, but I've been doing it for about a year by that point. I thought, if I don't take this opportunity now, I'm never going to have an opportunity to have a buffer, like to have 30 grand's worth of time to fuck it all up. Yeah. And I could have still gone back to doing what my first career was, which was web design. So and that's where it's kind of taken off from there. And then started off with 1 trainer, 2 trainers, 3 trainers. Now today, 2 companies and 12 trainers. So it's that's a very brief background for you.
Okay, so the 2 companies, one being Life Changing Fitness and the second being 80/20?
The 80/20 Lifestyle Plan.
Yeah. Tell us a bit about that.
So the 80/20 Lifestyle Plan. So this company developed off the back of Life Changing Fitness, and I was interviewed, or filmed for a Channel 4 documentary last year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Blimey, God, that's gone quick. Last summer, and the TV program was called Super Slimmers. Did they really keep the weight off? and they followed 5 incredible people. I was the 6th, where they lost. These people have lost all this weight, like 10, 20 stone in one scenario, and put it all back on in a period of time. They'd all done the crash dieting, and I was their example of somebody who lost an enormous amount of weight and hadn't put it back on. Why was I so different? What separated me to these people? It certainly wasn't genetics.
Yeah.
We'd all been dealt a Duff genetic card by that point. So, and that really was the spark, the thought process to why was I different? What made me so different to these poor people who had put all the weight back on? And through my own research, and I managed to speak to these people personally, there was I was the only one that literally changed my lifestyle. Not necessarily through fitness, but for me, I had a troubled upbringing with my parents. I started to put the weight on from about 17, 18, all the way through to about 24.
Yeah.
Homeless, moved down into Eastbourne where I worked for a little bit, stayed in a few drug dens. I mean, it was just a really dark point in my life, but that's when the weight gain happened. And then when this opportunity to work for Toshiba came up, I literally had to move 200 miles across the country. And that's when I started to lose the weight. And so for me, I removed myself from the environment that made me miserable.
Yeah.
So obviously the parent side, the food side, the job I had at the time was miserable. The friends I had at that time were terrible. They weren't my friends. So for me, by accident, I'd completely changed my lifestyle. Moved to a new location, different job, different career, different friends, different house, different car. Like literally everything was so different. And for me, that's what I believe to be one of the main reasons why I sustained the weight loss, because I had nothing, well, very few things constantly reminding me why I was worthless, why I was bad, all these types of things which previously I had.
Yeah.
Whereas all these people had kind of gone back to their lifestyles, they'd kind of gone back to their marriage which was falling apart, they'd gone back to their friends which took the piss out of them, they'd gone back to their desk job which they hated, they'd gone back to their lifestyles in general which just got them to the point where they put the weight on in the first place. So, I mean, that combined with my newfound passion of weight training, that combined with, I think, obviously meeting my wife 5-6 years ago, kind of wanting to better myself in that aspect as well. A few things came to light which separated me from other people. From these 5 people that put all the weight back on, I realised the answer, the key to sustaining weight loss wasn't the obsession in the gym, wasn't the constant dieting, it was the emotional side and the motivation side of changing your lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I suppose it was a perfect eye-opener for me to A, become a better coach, B, broaden the services that we offer at Life Changing Fitness, but then develop a new program that helped people change their lifestyles. And in order to change your lifestyle, I passionately believe that we need education to learn how to be moderate, and tackle this bad boy, which obviously you excel in so well at the moment. I've been watching all your stuff, it's incredible. So it's a combination of those 3 things that I feel is the foundation to everybody to want to change their lifestyle. The majority of people want to lose weight, so that would obviously help the education on food, the education on exercise, but then also tackling negative thoughts, challenging your mindset, becoming happier and healthier inside and out. Yeah. And I suppose that's where 80/20 has been born.
Awesome. For people listening just on the podcast, when Dan said, tackle this bad boy, if you're not on the video, he pointed to his head. He was not sat there with a platter of Nando's in front of us. Although tackling that bad boy is definitely part of the journey as well.
Indeed.
Just a quick question about so obviously you said there was a few things separating you from from these other 5 people. Was the fact that you put yourself in a position where you become a role model to other people, how did that play into all of that?
Do you know what, I'm going to be honest with you completely, I don't think I've mentioned this either, is I struggle to this day with trying to be this, I don't even say the word without sounding cocky, but this influencer, if you like, in terms of trying to be this person that people follow for motivation, inspiration or guidance. I struggle still to do that because I take it on as pressure. Like it feels like a weight.
Right. Okay. So for you, it's kind of like not necessarily a negative thing, but it's an added strain.
It's a stress.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's not to suggest that I don't enjoy it as much, because I understand my responsibility. I understand that my story does have some weight and I'm able to help other people in their point of view. I completely get that, and I cherish that actually. But what I find is it gets to a point where I feel there's so many people who are relying on me to do a certain thing or be a certain way or say a certain thing that I find it almost, every month I almost find I have to take 3 or 4 days out of social media just to reset.
Yeah, I mean, for myself, I'm not an influencer to your standard yet.
It's all relative.
If I was going to say, I do remember sending that first email to you and saying that I want to learn all your knowledge and then steal your chunk of the fitness industry away from you. At least I was honest.
Mate, honestly, the best policy.
But for myself, like, I found that once I realised I was in a position of influence, like, small scale, but it helped me while things were going good. Mm-hmm. But on the days when things went bad, it was kind of, sometimes it'd be that little extra push that I'd go, okay, you've got to keep your shit together.
Brilliant.
But other times it was that weight, so I just wanted to kind of get an idea of how you felt on that.
Well, I think I have to remind myself sometimes kind of what I do and why I do it, because as you are, I'm a huge fan of having a purpose, having a why.
Yes.
What's my why? And I think a lot of people lack their why. You're familiar with Simon Sinek?
Yeah. Got his book in my bag for
the original why. I think we went through it, didn't we?
You're the one who turned me on to the dude. Yeah.
So,
in that way, he's a good-looking man.
He's an attractive man.
He holds the room very well.
He's got this theory, and it's about you need to have a why. What's your why? What's your purpose? And my why is to rid the world of diets and to never allow anyone to ever diet again, because you'll know this as well as I do, that dieting is miserable.
Yes.
Absolutely. Whether it's Weight Watchers, Slimmer World, 5-2, Herbalife, whatever it is, low carb, keto, whatever you've done, it's a miserable existence. It only leads to negative thoughts. It only leads to your feeling of failure. And I hate that so much. And that's what I want to stop. So that's why we've developed, well, first of all, that's why we got into coaching. Secondly, that's why we developed the 80-20 lifestyle plan. But that's my why, that's my purpose. And sometimes when things get really hard and things get really with the depression and with stress and with being an entrepreneur and running businesses is hard, as you know. I mean,
it's lonely as well.
Mate, it's lonely, it's hard. I don't think people realise the stress it is, because you're paying your own bills, you're fighting for your own wage every single month, and it's tough, man. It's really tough. You're all constantly trying to break this hill, this crest, and it always seems so far away. But I think without your why and genuine why, you'll just give up straight away. And I think I've been in a position where I've had to remind myself where my why is, so that I never give up.
Yeah. Awesome. I mean, you've sort of kind of answered a bit of my next question anyway, because I was going to say, what is the vision? Where are we going with it? In fact, when the fundraiser, when does that end? Is there an end date on that? Because I want to...
The Indiegogo?
Yes.
Yes, so December the 10th is the last day.
Right, okay. This edition will probably go out after that.
Gotcha.
I might do another plug for you to get people on board with that, because that was going to be one of my final questions. Was going to be to direct people in the way of that. So when you're listening to this, the Indiegogo campaign is probably over.
This will go in January, right?
This either the end of December or the beginning of January.
So January the 1st is when we launch 80-20 to the public. So we've been in a test phase for a year now.
Okay.
So, well, I say that February is when we started, so it will be 11 months test phase by the time end of December comes.
Okay. And tell us what is the vision for that?
The vision is to remove dieting. So what we've managed to do over the last 11 months is prove that you can still get the same results as diets in terms of weight loss and fat loss, but without all the negativity. So once you learn the education of food, once you learn the education of exercise for you and your personal goals, and you learn how your mind works, how your emotions work, how they fit in with habits, behaviours, your hormones, and then how that all connects to food, or the perception of it connecting to food, should I say. Once we've been able to peel back those onion layers and show people how it really should be, without all this stress, without all this negativity, it should just be this really easy, comfortable lifestyle, just changing a few bits which aren't previously working. So the vision is to get people on that road, so that they never have to do Weight Watchers again, do Slimmer World again, and I get criticised a few times, well, quite often when I give Slimming World a bit of a bashing, and Weight Watchers a bit of a bashing, and a lot of people say, yeah, but they're helping people, they're getting people on the back. There's no denying people have lost weight with them.
Yeah.
And I always come back to the thing I said, do you have any idea how many people don't lose weight with them? How many people put that weight back on?
Yeah.
It's 60%. I mean, these are facts. These are stats that Slimming World and Weight Watchers have to release to Ofcom in order to do their TV ads.
Yeah.
60% of people put the weight back on, and to me, that's horrendous.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's like buying a car. 60% of the time it breaks down.
Yeah.
I mean, you take it straight back to the manufacturer and you go, give me a fucking refund.
Yeah.
But no, what actually happens is, and this is what the diets prey on, is you blame yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go back to the diet, try again, because it was my fault.
Yeah, because I couldn't do it on my own, and therefore I needed...
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the things that I learned from you, was making your clients actually not need you. Getting to the point where you actually end up losing a client, not because they don't need you, because they don't need you anymore. And actually, you'll get a few that'll stay on and actually want to train with you because they enjoy training with you, they enjoy being coached, but they don't need it anymore.
No, absolutely.
And they become independent. And I think that's one of the main differences between kind of what makes someone go on to be a good coach, is that we've internalised all of these things by trial and error. Like, you say Weight Watchers and Slimming World, they work until they don't. A low carb diet worked for me until when I came off it and developed an eating disorder with carbs and couldn't moderate the bastards. But I'm very well aware of the fact that yes, a low carb diet helped me get to 90 kilograms when I was doing Muay Thai and stuff like that. But at the same time, when I came off that low carb diet, carbs still are life, but they were 100% of life for a little while. And, I ended up with pretty much non-purge bulimia off the back of that. Mm-hmm. Now, for someone who's a coach who can internalise that, learn from it, actually take the journey and move on, that's fine, because I've used that as a learning curve. Absolutely. But I didn't then turn around and say, it was my fault or whatever. I kind of use that information, and now when I actually do my own, when I actually diet, for want of a better word, when I cut back, when I've got to make weight for a competition, for example, it's a lot more sensible. And it doesn't involve, this time around at my last competition, instead of taking donuts and cakes with me like I did in April, I took a box of salmon and sweet potato mash with me. Yeah, fun. I didn't have the overall craving to just stuff my face with Krispy Kremes.
And I think the key thing there is as well, these diets lead to a restrictive lifestyle. That restriction adds to an emotional stress, and then as soon as you say to a client, "Oh, you're never allowed to have a pizza again," all they're going to think about is pizza. Yeah. Right? Whereas if you say to them, "Eat as much pizza as you want," all of a sudden it's, okay, well, I don't really want a pizza.
Yeah.
And you change the mindset instantly, and that's the same with 8-20 is. There's no food off limits, nothing's banned at all. We educate them on trans fats, and you say obviously you moderate them, stay away from those as much as you can, but the reality is you're never going to escape them, so to moderate them, but eat what you want. And then all of a sudden it just stops the feeling of binging. I mean, we've seen 90% reduction in binging within the first 2 weeks.
The one, I think that it was about a year ago, you had the lady who was eating tubs of Ben and Jerry's, and you had to slice the tub into segments and refreeze the segments.
That's right.
And so then she'd have a bit of Ben and Jerry's, but she'd have it 5 times in the week, but it'd be one tub that's cut into kind of 5 slices. I thought that was absolutely genius.
Yeah, I mean it's a great introduction into you can have it, but to begin with, let's maybe just have a little bit rather than I would imagine all the PTs before her would have said, well, you're fatty, there's no way you're having Ben and Jerry's.
Yeah.
Whereas my approach is, yes, they may be overweight, but they love Ben and Jerry's. Who doesn't?
Yeah.
So why on earth would you want to restrict it? Moderate it, don't restrict it.
Awesome. So I'd love to kind of know how your training is now compared to what it was when you first lost the weight. Is there anything that you did back then that you think now you look back and go, oh, I can't believe I did that?
Oh mate, so much. Like if people could see, I've got videos upstairs obviously because I've documented my whole journey, and I watch them back sometimes just to give myself a giggles. I think, what the fuck was I doing? I mean, horrendous stuff. DTP, do you remember that?
Yes.
I did that a lot. And I think we did it.
We did it on carbs.
We did. I mean, to be fair, and again, to defend myself a little bit, there is some logic to it. It's volume, it's intensity, and so some stubborn muscle groups do need that kind of overtraining to the point where they can, just change a little bit to adapt in a different way. But for the most part, it's a terrible exercise regime because it's just so intensive, and particularly if you're a natural athlete, it's too much volume, too much, not enough rest, not enough recovery, and I don't even know how I didn't break my arms and my legs if I'm honest, because looking back, I used to do, for those that don't know, DTP it stands for Dynamic Transformation Protocol. One of the two, and the idea is it's a pyramid set, so you start off with an exercise, say bicep curls, and you do 50 bicep curls, minutes rest 40, minutes rest 30, 20, 10, but you increase the weight as you go down the reps, and then you go back up, so you go 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. And you can superset it with another exercise. Which we did. Which was biceps into triceps, for example. So you do 50 bicep curls, 50 tricep extensions, rest, increase the weight, 40, 40. And so by the end of it, you're doing 600 reps. I mean, I don't think I've done a 600 rep workout in the last 3 years. I mean, that volume is so unnecessary. But at the time, I think when I was a new trainer, was this idea that you had to kill yourself. Yeah. And you had to train harder than anyone in the gym in order to see changes that no one else had. And that's just not the way I see things now. My training now is strength based. Yeah. I love strength training. I found I'm relatively strong. I've done strongman. I'm going to do another strongman in April.
You won at strongman, didn't you?
I won my debut. Yeah.
I thought I'd slip at it because you clearly were being uncharacteristically modest for a change.
Well, the camera's on. I don't want to. But yeah, I won an official strongman. Just rocked up. Well, it was God, I'm going to sound so bad now. The competition was a friend of mine was hosting it, and
it's a vex.
Well, and I don't know if you're familiar. They have multiple strongman competitions in the country, but not all of them are verified by Strongman, which is the company. And so this one was. So I've qualified for. The next competition I'm going to do in April is the qualifier for Britain's Strongest Man.
Oh, cool.
So if I get in top 6 in that one, I qualify for the British Strongest Man, which will be awesome. Yeah. Obviously never going to happen, but because there's some animals out there, but I'd like to qualify. I think that'd be quite cool. So that's going to be my next goal. But the mix of events, given my background in training, just worked perfectly for me because I've done CrossFit. I still do CrossFit a little bit to this day. I've done hypertrophy, I've done strength training, I've done Olympic lifting, I've done powerlifting. So I've done all these different disciplines to some extent, or principles of training, and to then go into strongman, which is very much a mix of everything, just with weights, which are silly, like pulling a truck. I mean, it's.
I want to have a go with
that. It's not as nice as you think it is.
Well, I'll start with the foot. Yes.
It hurts a lot, and axle deadlifts up to 270 kilos.
Yeah, they're not fun.
No, they're not fun.
Even with my big gorilla hands, I can't. An axle's too big.
They're very difficult, and then running with 150 kilo farmer walks, running with them, fastest time over 20 metres. I mean, these are just silly events, but they're great fun.
I was going to say, yeah, it's great fun. I've not seen you smile that much for ages.
It's great fun. I mean, the risk of injury is insane, but if you're careful with it and obviously experienced, then it's not too bad. So,
what would be your advice for someone new coming into the game now?
A new trainer, coming into this industry.
Yeah, and a new not clients, but a new trainees, a new gym user, or someone new to exercise.
Oh, client.
It doesn't have to be gym, because
I'll answer the other question that you didn't ask me, right, about what advice would I give a new PT? But someone new looking to get into the gym, start a new journey. Education's got to be the first protocol. Focus on the 23 hours outside of the gym, not the 1 hour in the gym. That would be my first bit of advice.
Awesome, love it.
Because to this day, people are so obsessed with wanting to go for a run when they're overweight, or learn how to squat and they've never done a mobility session in their life, or whatever it may be. The people have got spinal injuries, trying to do a deadlift. I'm just like, try not to overcomplicate it. Focus on everything else other than the gym, and the gym will come. Moving more is a natural thing. It's a lot more basic than a lot of people give it credit for. And don't look to people like me, to you, to Greg Plitt, who was a big inspiration of mine. don't use them as examples of how you should train now.
Yes.
Because those are people who've been training for a long, long time, very experienced, and you know, and their goals at their time is not relevant to a new trainer, obviously.
Although if you're going to get into Olympic lifting, do it when you're 6 years old.
Mate, my kid is going to be doing CrossFit from 3.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to get Olympic lifting and CrossFit and gymnastics. That's what my kid's going to get into.
Yeah, one of the things when you say about the gym, like the focus on those over 23 hours, again, another piece of your content, probably 4 or 5 months ago, when you had the pyramid, and gym was the smallest thing at the top of the pyramid.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of people use the kind of pyramid analogy of what the importance is, and it was the first time I'd seen gym at the top of it. But as I read it, I'm just like, yeah, it's damn right.
It makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like you know, we've spent so many times getting asked the question, what's the best exercise for this? What's the best exercise for fat loss? It's like 20 reps of self-love.
Yeah,
20 reps of ditching your toxic friends. You know, it's like, it's not bicep curls. Well, it never was bicep curls. It was always compound lifts. But yeah.
But you're absolutely bang on. I mean, it's. So to answer the other question, which you didn't ask me,
no, I want to hear the answer now. Actually.
Is if you're listening to this or you're watching this and you've literally just passed your level 3, you want to get into the industry, you don't know where to go. My advice is don't get into the industry. Genuinely, it's a terrible place to be. It really is. My advice would be, if you want to help people genuinely, if you want to genuinely help people and genuinely change people's lives, I would become a therapist. Like get into NLP, get into psychotherapy, get into psychology, get into mental health disorders, get into all that type of lifestyle coaching to some extent. But with that as your foundation, you can improve someone's life so much more than getting them to do a bicep curl. And I think it sounds mental. I know a lot of people are kind of attracted by this kind of £45 an hour, or if I do 8 sessions a day, or I can make 400 quid, or I can go and earn loads of money. It's not.
Does not work out that way in the slightest.
It doesn't. It really, really doesn't. And it's difficult to become a well-paid trainer. It's difficult to become a profitable trainer, and it's difficult to become a trainer that the majority of people like. And I think what you have to do actually is to find your niche. And that's why I admire you so much, because what you're doing in the mental health space is so much better than anybody else is doing. And it's a niche, but it's not a niche. It's such a vast expanse of knowledge that every single person needs to know. Because I'm going to say this: every single person has got a mental health disorder, but they just don't realise it, or where they are on the spectrum.
Yes.
I think that's the thing. I think people realise. I think people can think they're genuinely happy and they don't have a mental health disorder, but give it a bit of stress upon the top of that happy lifestyle, and then watch it crumble down, and then how they can't handle that stress or that lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, often people who've not experienced any adversity whatsoever don't have the coping mechanisms that someone who's had a rougher upbringing might have.
Absolutely.
So when that stress comes in, it's not so much. It's like it's such. Okay, to use the Rocky analogy, it's not about how hard you can hit; it's how hard you can be hit and keep going. That is mental health.
Yeah.
It's like it's how hard. It's how you relate to the stress, because everybody gets stress. It's what weight you give to the stresses that come in. Like 2 people could be stuck in the same traffic. One thinks of it as the heaviest piece of stress in the world.
Indeed.
The other, whatever.
Yeah.
Turn Smooth FM off. Still a radio station. But yeah, and then the coping mechanisms of how you get that, clear the decks, how you get that stress off.
Absolutely.
So
it's amazing. I don't think people realise the extent of food as a coping strategy, as an example, and obviously this does lead to obesity. I think if you can tackle stress, I think that would be, mental health in particular, but if you can tackle stress and emotions and how we cope with them, you'll wipe out obesity within a generation. I genuinely believe that, and that's hopefully where 8 to 20 will go to one time, because that's what we tackle is how to deal with stress, how to deal with negative emotions so that we don't turn to food, because that's the overconsumption of calories for a lot of people. And if it's not food, it's alcohol. That can lead to alcoholism, as we know, or it's drugs, or whatever the coping strategy is for the stress in that time. Why we turn to that particular strategy, and how it's become a habit or behaviour, or a lot of people don't realise that when we're a baby, what's the first thing we do when we cry? We get a tit in the face, right? And we're force fed, not force fed, but we're fed lactose and protein, right? It's carbohydrates. and then when we fall down and we graze our knee, or when we play football, we get lollipop.
Yeah.
You know, all these behaviours are ingrained, so that by the time you get to 15, 16, 17, 20, 30, it's when I've hurt myself or I'm upset or I'm stressed, I'm going to have some food.
Yeah.
And it's just breaking that, because
And like
it's
with
literally
anything,
ingrained from birth.
You need a higher dose. Like, you get used to the dose.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to go into the whole sugar is as addictive as cocaine thing.
Sure. That's bullshit.
But yeah, you want to up the dose. It's like, that cake didn't do the job as well as the last cake, so I'm having 2 slices of cake this time. I want to talk a little bit about community. So with 80/20, you have groups. How large are the groups each one?
They vary, mate, to be honest. The biggest is 160, and the smallest is 30.
Okay. Outside, I mean, you go for the walks and things with there's a 365 version or something.
Slightly different, yeah. That's a project within 80/20 where we wanted to. The idea of that project is we're training 20 women to over a year for free.
Mm-hmm.
I see them 3 times a week. It's a mix of power walk, exercise, and then the education.
Okay. So the question is, with those women, did they know each other before they started?
No.
How well do they know each other now?
Very well.
Yeah. So what sort of role does that community play? Like their support of one another, not just obviously you're. I know you're not going to call it this, but like the head of the household in that department. Sure. But what role does the interactions between those ladies play?
Well, the idea why the community is so important, and it's vital. In fact, if we didn't develop the community, this just wouldn't work, because there's only so many times you can go to a meeting to see me or to listen to me speak and ignore everyone around you. Mm-hmm. You know, there's only so many times you could do that. You've got to develop the friendships or help them develop the friendships. And I think the key thing here is every single one of those 20 women has got a lifestyle that wasn't working for them.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they wouldn't be there. You know, whatever the reason, whether it's a partner that was causing the problems, or they just weren't connecting, whether it's family stress, whether it's children issues, whether it's previous eating disorders issues which are rising up again, whether it's work stress, whether it's friends that are bullying them, whatever or multiple cases of that, in fact, in some scenarios, whatever the scenario is, they've all got that in their life that's causing problems to the point where they've caused them to overeat or develop these coping strategies which weren't helping, and ultimately become more unhappy. Mm-hmm. So what we've had to do, and what we needed to do right from the off, was develop a community where every single one of those women could go to a place 3 times a week, feel safe, mm-hmm. feel secure, feel like they can say whatever they want in their mind. It's never going to leave those 4 walls, and just be themselves without any of these stresses. And that's allowed them to, best friendships have already developed. I mean, these women are seeing each other outside of the time that they see me. And we wanted to get to the point where in about 6 months' time, where we draw to the end, we're almost 3 months in now. In 6 months' time, we'll be 9 months in, and we'll need to start looking at an exit strategy, because we can't just leave them on day 365. You know, we've got to slowly get to the point where we are not needed.
Yes.
And I want that to get to the point in 6 months. So when we're 6 months in, where we can start to look at that strategy already, because they don't need us. Mm. They think they do, but they don't.
Yeah.
You know, by the time they've learned the 80/20 stuff, by the time they've developed a little bit of self-motivator, we've helped them find their why. Why are they doing it? Not just because they feel they need to, or they've got to, but they want to do it for themselves. Once we've developed that, we really aren't needed. Mm-hmm. We're almost their comfort blanket. And sometimes you've just got to take the comfort blanket away in order for the child to grow up, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, that's going to be the exciting, or the challenging part of it anyway.
Yeah. But it'll be massively empowering to see each one of those ladies actually go, you know what, I got this on my own. And not only have I got this on my own, I can actually probably go and tell my friend about it and help them. And, you know, you're actually creating a legacy through these people.
Well, mate, that'd be incredible. But the upshot is that we've found, which is an amazing surprise, is 2 of the ladies, definitely, maybe 4 in these early days. We're already talking about them developing 80/20 for their own groups, like becoming a franchise of the business, which we never expected with this group, but it's now a possibility, you know. And who knows, maybe even more of them would want to coach their own their own teams, which would just be incredible.
Yeah.
We have to make sure they're qualified.
Yeah, I mean, but that's one of my
yeah.
absolute favourite things. It's like the analogy I always draw it to, and this is like I've not been in any particular surgical environment, but
Sure.
I watch Grey's Anatomy, so I know a thing about it.
Of course, but you're an expert.
Yeah, exactly. In Grey's Anatomy, they learn the procedure, they do the procedure, but they don't think of the person as fully proficient until they've taught the procedure.
Nice.
And I think that I try and get that going with my clients now. It's like, if I've got a circuit class going on, one of the more experienced clients, if this is someone who 6 months ago didn't even know a barbell from a dumbbell or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And then I'm actually saying to them, can you actually go over and show them how to do a shoulder press while I look at this side of the class? It's so empowering. And like, for example, while I'm down here this weekend, one of my clients is running my circuit class for me. So it's like, I mean, it's a free class, so she doesn't. They're basically meeting up and doing some training together. But it keeps that whole. It obviously empowers the person who's doing it, because they think, I've put my trust in them to gather everyone together. But it's just, and the ones that do that are the ones that seem to actually have the best and most impressive transformations, because they're not only realising what it's done for them, but what it can do for other people.
Absolutely, and again, you're helping develop their why.
Yeah,
and there's this one lady. I won't mention names in case she does see it, because I don't want to single out anyone in particular. But there's this one lady in the group who started off. The first time she met us, she was shaking with fear and anxiety. She knew she needed to do something, and this opportunity was too good to miss. But she was so distraught to be there. Like, it was just way out of her comfort zone. And she's one of the ladies which I'm talking to about becoming a team leader within 80/20. You know, her confidence, the way that she's been empowered. She's empowering herself now, which is amazing. But it's just, she now struts into the room. Everyone's happy that she's there. She's one of the key figures, one of the key personalities in there. I mean, her transformation is just ridiculous at the moment. I'll show you in a second. It's insane. And we're only 10 weeks in, and she's now starting going to couples counselling to fix her marriage, because that was one of the things. I've probably given it away now. But it's my point being, she's one of these. She's transformed so much, and it's so much more than the physical transformation. As you know, the best clients are the ones which transform mentally.
Yes.
You know, they're so much more rewarding than just a fat loss photo.
Oh yeah. Well, there's a reason that my first big video was called "It's Not Just About Losing Weight."
And do you know what? Sorry to interrupt. What we find at 80/20 is the actual course is 12 weeks. Well, will be 16 weeks from next week. But what we say to them is, you won't believe me. Now, in the first week, I say, you won't believe me, but this is not about fat loss. I know you're all here because the majority of you want to lose fat, but in 12 weeks' time, in 16 weeks' time, you'll all be saying to me, this is so much more than fat loss. Yeah. And it is. It is so much more. We become fixated on trying to lose the weight, but it's so much more. If you can become genuinely happier internally and show that externally, that then you become more confident, you become more loving, you can actually sense your own beauty, and help change people's lives, which is arguably one of the best satisfactions in the world. And then you can almost go, oh, but I'm losing a few centimetres at the same time. That's not the important thing. The important thing is I'm helping other people. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, awesome. Okay. In terms of advice that's out there,
we're not stopping, are we?
Not yet.
I'm loving this. This is brilliant.
I've got two more main questions. I can carry on until that thing runs out of battery. That runs out of battery well quicker than I do. In terms of the advice that's out there, what is one piece of advice you see people getting a lot that you just wish that they wouldn't? Like, the worst piece of advice that's out there that too many people are taking?
Oh, you've got your cliches, you know, the common ones, which are no carbs or no carbs after 6, and all these. I mean, I hear them so often. I almost think that they're not prolific, because they almost lose their surprise for me now. But it was only the other day, Kirsty and I and Costa were having a coffee, and these two women behind us were talking about how they were just starting Weight Watchers and they weren't allowed to have their fish and chips after 6, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And I was thinking, this is actually still out there. I mean, we hear it every single day, and we preach it every single day, and we try and educate it every single day. But I forget that it's a real problem, that people still think carbohydrates make us fat.
People just want to put the blame somewhere else.
They want to point the finger, and they try to overcomplicate it as
It's
well.
like, I'm not able to lose weight because I've not found out this secret, or that I've, or it was my hormones, or I ate. Well, hormones do play a role, obviously, but because I had carbs before marbs. Or
Yeah, exactly. So I suppose we'll treat those as red, but the big one at the moment, which I really hate, is excuse me, I'm going to burp. Sorry,
I'm going to put the volume up on that bit.
It's bad trainers or poor trainers, or should I say, trainers who don't have their why and just want to make money, offering supplements.
Okay,
that's my biggest gripe. And I don't mean the supplements that you and I take, the foundation supplements to your omega-3s or your vitamin Ds, whatever it may be, but the fat loss supplements, or the meal replacement shakes, or the Juice Plus tablets, or whatever, vitamin K pills and things. I'm just like, if you knew the education, that's the fat soluble vitamin that needs to be binded to a fat. You can't just take a tablet of vitamin K. It just doesn't work there. So it's things like that where a trainer can triple their income by selling their supplements to their trainers, to their clients, and the reason they're doing it is for money and money alone. And I suppose that's my biggest gripe, and the thing I think just needs to stop. And again, kind of touched on my first point there, and one of the first points about if you're a trainer getting into the industry, what would I recommend? And if you want to make money and money is your sole purpose, then become a bad PT. There's so many out there. I mean, it's so easy to do. You sell yourself, become a Herbalife rep, you'll make shitloads of money. I mean, you won't be able to look yourself in the mirror, and you won't be internally happy ever, and you'll hurt people's lives. But if you just want to make money, just do that. But if you want to change people's lives, then become educated and go down that road.
Yeah. You watch Gary Vee, don't you?
I love Gary.
Yeah.
Well, I used to hate him, I now love him.
I was the same, actually.
Yeah.
He loves that. So if you're watching Gary...
We're both massive fans now.
But we weren't at first.
At one point we wanted to kill you.
But it's one of my favourite lines of his is how you make your money is more important than how much money you make.
Love it.
Yeah, and it's the whole... Yeah, I know for myself that if I didn't believe in whatever I was selling, I just couldn't sell it.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, that's the right way to do things.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. Again, I'm sure you would be able to relate to this to some extent, but I've almost been bankrupt 5 times. The last 5 years running my own business, and that's not necessarily to suggest I'm a poor businessman, because I don't think I am. But with every business, you have your peaks and your troughs, and sometimes the troughs are just fucking deep, and and our business is incredibly seasonal, as you know, and there's peaks and there's lulls, and it's hard sometimes, particularly when you've got to pay 6 people on the payroll and whatever it may be, and supplies and all that type of jazz. So it's bloody hard making money doing it right without selling your soul.
In the short term.
In the short term. Okay.
I think long term it's going to work out really well for both of us.
Yeah, mate, I couldn't agree more. I can see the vision, and I know as soon as we get traction with the 80-20, as soon as we get some form of and I've got a big PR push from January, so I'm hoping that's going to be will take us over this crescent. Tony Robinson talks about this lip. You might be familiar with it when he says life accelerated for me so quickly when I got to the point where I didn't have to worry about my mortgage. When there was enough money that I didn't have to worry about paying my bills. The lease was done, the mortgage was done, everything was sorted out, and I had a little bit of money left over, and then that was just happened every day, every month. And he said once you got to that point, then the stresses of the day-to-day just disappear, and you can just accelerate.
Yeah.
And I suppose, and I'm not there yet, and that's what I'm aiming for. And once I get over this crescent, this little hill, then we can really start to snowball. But at the moment, it's a bit of a dogfight.
Fair enough. Okay, and as for advice that you think maybe people aren't hearing enough of, is there like a good piece of advice that you'd love to give people that you think they're just either not hearing enough of, or if they're hearing it, they're just not taking it?
Mate, there's so much. It all comes down to mental health, I think, or just mindset, loving yourself more, realising that you are as amazing, realising you're more amazing than you ever thought possible, realising that you've got so much worth and so much worth and place in this life that I don't think a lot of people realise, you know. That you and I can walk down the road and just smile and shake someone's hand and say, hello, how are you? And that can literally save and change someone's day forever. You know, and I don't think people realise just how powerful their presence can be, or is, or their self-worth. You know, there's a great, I saw this great YouTube video about how this guy was. Have you got a $5 on you at all, or a £10 note or anything?
I don't think so.
No.
I think I've done it in the drawer this morning.
Okay, here we go. I left it. No, I've got it in my pocket. Here we go. You'll love this one. Exclusive.
Yeah, if you're listening on the podcast, you're going to have to go over to YouTube.
Yeah. £5. So here's and in the video they use a £50 note, right? So have you seen this?
No.
No. So imagine this is a really expensive thing. So it's £5. Do you want it?
Get on.
Yeah, of course. Well, and so I'm going to fold it a few times.
How was you paying me for your intro?
There's a few creases in there, so it's a little bit damaged. Do you still want it?
Yeah.
Of course you do, because it's worth £5, right? I'm just going to give it a little bit of a tear. So it's really damaged there. Do you still want it?
Yep.
Of course you do, because it's still worth £5, right? I scrub it up, really damage it. Do you want it?
Yep.
Of course you do, because it's £5, right? So this has a value, and it doesn't matter how much beaten, how much it's beaten up, how much is torn, how much is damaged, it still has a value. And I love that. You know?
I really love that.
And I think people forget that their value is so high, even if they are damaged.
I'm searching that out.
It's good, isn't it?
I'm going to find the original of that.
It's a really good one. There was an American guy did with a $100 bill.
Yeah.
It's a really good one. I've forgotten what his name is now. But
yeah. So your value is fixed regardless of.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think just adjust the underpants. The downside down with testicles. I don't think women could ever appreciate this problem. But yeah, I suppose what I'd love to see more is people discovering their worth. I think that would be a lovely thing to see. And how they get to that is just, again, education on focusing on their mindset changes, challenging those negative thoughts, you know, learning different coping strategies, using things like CBT or positive psychology or NLP, whatever it may be, whatever tool you find works for you, or whatever teacher that you connect with to help teach these things to you. I think that's what I'd love to see more. Not to do with nutrition, not to do with exercise. It's all to do with the mind.
Yeah,
it's so powerful.
Awesome. Anything else you would like to add?
Oh, that's a good question. I suppose I kind of want children's nutrition.
Okay.
What's your take on that these days?
All right, I have a very different take from you, I think, and this will be, and most listeners will probably you probably come against the whole "you've not got kids yet, so what do you know" thing.
Exactly. Yes.
Which
very many times.
Yes. Well, I have got 2 kids, and they are an absolute nightmare to teach nutrition. Now,
Sure.
for example, I want my children to make the right healthy choices themselves. So I have gone with an educational approach with mine. Nice. I don't force what they eat. There have been a few times where I have forced a bro meal and I have chicken and broccoli,
Sure.
but and maybe some rice. But for the majority of the time, I want them to make their own decisions, because I think if it's enforced upon them, that they won't ever once they're out of the house, they will go off and make it's the whole Catholic schoolgirl analogy.
Sure.
Once they're away from the school, so. Yeah, I've tried that approach with my 2. It semi-works. Now, my eldest at the moment, he's got to go and have an operation on his foot in 3 weeks, which means he's going to be extremely inactive. And as a result, he's popped himself on a diet this week. He come home and he's like, well, what have you? He's on school dinner. So
how old is he?
He's nearly 13.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So he.
And he feels he needs to go on a diet.
Well, he could. Okay, he's a little bit. Sure. He's a little bit overweight. If I'm not going to fat shame him.
Sure.
But he is. He's carrying a few extra pounds. Not as many as I was at his age. We've talked about the emotional aspect of it and stuff, and we tried to kind of get to the bottom of that. But ultimately, my education there is how you can make healthy choices. How many of these can you make? Which one of them would you like to make?
Sure.
And try and put it as much in their hands as possible. And it's a tough one, because my youngest is 2 years younger. He's like 10. He's a little string bean. he runs around all the time. He eats pretty much the same as Sam. At home, they eat exactly identically. They both eat the exact same things at home, and Sam must be eating something else somewhere, or the fact that he's not as anywhere near as active. He's had this problem with his foot for a long time. That's why he's having surgery, but which has stopped him from. So yeah, it's a tough one. I think it's very difficult to kind of I think when you're saying if you're educating a parent to try and then do better things with a child's nutrition, you need to then obviously look at the parent stress levels and things first, because if you go in and say, right, you just need to condemn the parent, because every parent really thinks they're doing the best job they know how to do. And if you go in and condemn how a parent is doing something, very, very murky area. It's so my question usually is, how could this be better? How could you improve what you've currently got? And then let the parent or the child actually answer that question. Coach them to it. Let them, because it's inception. If they think it's their idea, then they're more likely to actually stick to it. You get a varied result. I'll be perfectly honest about this, because some people, you just sat there and you know the answer. You're trying, rather than just tell them it, you're trying to wait for them to get to it, and they're just not getting to it. But yeah, I do believe that Sam, as I say, there was definitely an emotional element. There was absolutely an emotional element for me. Mine was a bullying. I was bullied, therefore I was out of control in my life. I wanted some control. I could control the amount of custard creams I ate until I ran out of custard creams, but then I couldn't be asked going to the shop because I was lazy.
Sure.
It's a good job I was lazy, otherwise it would probably be even bigger. So yeah, I definitely think the emotional aspect of it needs to be, and yeah, that how we are as parents, reward, the reward system, they're upset, give them this. That's a very good point to actually look at. How else could you make the child feel better?
Without food.
Without food, yeah. Which is ultimately any adult that I work with that has an eating disorder. The first thing we do is we go, that eating is trying to achieve something positive. What is the positive it's trying to achieve? And they'll go, either I'm trying to de-stress, I'm trying to feel in control, I'm trying to do this. And then you go, right, give me 3 other ways that you can do that. So if to any parent out there, if you're rewarding your child with food, or you're commiserating something they've done, they not commiserating, but trying to make them feel better from as you said, a scraped knee, or they've I'm looking to how I can reward Sam to kind of make him feel better after his operation, rather than saying, here you go, let's go out for pizza.
Sure.
So it's how else could you reward that behaviour? What other healthy ways? Because you're trying to do something positive. And I think we immediately condemn the action without the why. The why is we're trying to do something positive.
Yeah.
So ultimately it's how else could I do that? Could I achieve that positive outcome? How else could this person feel better? It could be as simple as a hug. Could be as simple as...
But again, I think it's trying to find the hormone that they're find. Right? So if it's as simple as a hug and a hug works, oxytocin, that's the one that they're missing, they're lacking, or they're craving, and you give it to them. If it's food related and they get a real buzz out of going to the Pizza Hut afterwards, it's serotonin, right?
So get them on the slot machine.
Or it's a dopamine reaction, right? And it's typically one of those 3 parcels I find, and you're absolutely bang on. If we taught the parents mainly to go, right, if that's what you're currently doing, then what you're actually doing is you're giving them a dose of serotonin, or a dose of oxy, or a dose of dopamine. How else can you give that to them?
At the moment my kids love having Nerf gun fights.
Nice.
Right? So if Sam turns around to me and goes, I'm hungry and it's not quite dinner time yet, I can distract him for half an hour by having an Nerf gun fight.
Nice.
And that's one way of dealing with it. Or I can play chess with him, which just doesn't I'm not quite sure what hormone that's releasing, but it gets his attention. That's a mindfulness thing more than a hormone thing. It gets his attention thinking about what move I'm going to do next.
Nice.
Because when he does concentrate, he actually gets close to beating me.
Chess is a great game. But it's too intellectual for me. I don't have the patience.
It's too intellectual for me. That's why I'm playing against a 12-year-old.
I'm the type where you probably notice I can't sit still for. I think that's probably related to a few things, but it's I just physically can't sit still. So for chess, for me, it's a no-go. That is not enough movement to expel the energy. That
you need to play on a giant board.
Physically pick them up and move.
A farmer's, like a log carrier or something. Each chess piece, let's take this. 2 meters that way and 1 meter that way.
Mate, I've enjoyed this.
Me too.
Thank you so much.
Where can we find you on social media?
Oh, just want to get to plug.
Yeah, plug away.
Plug away.
Plug away.
So guys, come check me out on Facebook. Just search my name, Daniel Wheeler, or it's Life Changing Fitness on Facebook page, or the 80-20 Lifestyle Plan, 80 20 20. Or Instagram, it's the 80-20 Lifestyle Plan, or it's Life Changing Fitness, or it's Daniel Wheeler. Nice and easy.
I will try and. That's a lot of links. I will try to get all of them in the right place, but invariably I forget 2 or 3 of them every single time.
I'll tell you what, if you go to the 8020lifestyleplan.com, you'll be able to find all of them.
Awesome.
Nice.
Thank you very much, Dan.
Awesome.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Right, thanks guys, and I will be back next week. If this is a December one, probably talking about New Year's resolutions and why they're a load of crap. Or could be a load of good, but anyway. Right, thanks again guys, and I will see you all soon.